Patch 1.10 has arrived and provided a champion rework in the form of Lee Sin, along with some other balance changes. We've started to see Lee Sin as a key card in many new decks, but how many will he actually appear in this latest top 10? You know the drill with this format of video now. We'll be reviewing the top 10 decks in patch 1.10 based on win rate percentage. This video has been done in collaboration with Bomber TV. All the cards in this deck have managed to avoid the buffs and nerfs of patch 1.10, and its win rate has remained more or less the same too, keeping this deck at the 10th spot on the list. Discard Aggro has seen a rebirth in the last couple of patches, and it's still a good contender even with the new Targon meta. It features cards from Noxus and Piltover and Zorn with an extremely low average cost, with crazy 12 cards costing just 1 mana. It features Draven and Jinx, which both utilise the discard mechanic. The deck got a nice addition with Poro Cannon, which both synergises the discard mechanics and gives you cheap elusive units to go wide with, which then you can turn buff, which makes it almost a very natural fit into this strategy. Also, the discard mechanic can also be used to help catch your opponent off guard with cards like Vision and Flame Chompers, where you're both at 0 mana, or where your opponent does not expect any reaction from you, so it can kind of lead to some very extreme punishes. Other than that, the game plan has not changed from last season. Go wide early on cards thanks to Rummage discarding cards like Jury Rig or Flame Chompers. Finally, when you're running out of steam, refill with Augmented Experimenter and bonus points if you can level up Jinx that way. So this is a nice little control deck that's popped up with the Targon release. It consists of Freljord champions and spells alongside 18 Shadow Isle spells. You'll notice that the deck is very spell heavy with a grand total of 27 spells. There's a very high average mana cost too, with a huge number of cards costing over 7 mana, and this must be what was somewhat of a record for high cost decks that I've actually reviewed. This is pretty similar to a deck we'll see later on, so I'm not going to spend too much time delving into this deck, as a more accurate analysis of the main concept will be done in a bit, but the main difference with this deck is Tryndamere over Commander Ledros, and also the kind of spinning of what was cool. You can quickly get to late game with cards like Widering Stones and Catalyst of Ions. To make up for your lack of followers, you can keep the Nexus healthy with cards like Grasp of the Undying and Withering Wail. In late game, you will slap your bombs, so think Trundle, Tryndamere and War Mother's Call to bring out powerful cards using Overwhelm to basically hit as hard as possible. Nothing has really changed from this deck with the patch 1.10 changes. Control strategies are emerging, and since Scout is a very board-centric aggro with not quite enough burn, it's starting to struggle a little bit, which is why it's dropped down in the top 10 list. It was originally 4th, and it's obviously now 8th. Scouts has been a staple since the release of Bilgewater. This deck has an incredible curve benefiting from all the great units coming from Demacia. It's effectively a mono Demacia deck featuring 3 copies of Misfortune. On the mulligan, you always want to keep Misfortune and Quinn, as both of those are key cards in the deck, but it's also important to have 1-drops, such as Fleet Feather Tracker in particular. You want to level up your champions as quickly as you can, which is why you always want to attack with your scouts, even if they would die meanwhile. You also have lots of ways to generate value thanks to your tricks. Ranger's Resolve to counter AoEs to get those value trades on the wide blocks, and Single Combat to remove their key cards, often getting a value trade by doing that. Riposte is a fantastic way to shield from removal and deal bonus damage, and Back to Back, which is amazing to cast on your scout units as they benefit from double the amount of the bonus to attack. Commander Ledros Control is quite a strange little deck that features 3 copies of Trundle, 8 followers and a crazy 29 spells, as a very high average cost with all but 9 cards costing 4 or more mana, with a staggering 10 costing over 7. It features cards from Freljord and Shadow Isles. This is quite an interesting take on a control archetype and a return of Commander Ledros. There's not much going on, to be honest, in this deck. You control the board against aggro strategies with AoE such as the Box, Avalanche, Withering Wail, and Icequake. Heal with other removals such as Vile Feast, Unspeakable Horror, and Catalyst of the Ions. Use Varus's Sentry to draw extra cards, and Babbling Burge to quickly draw out Trundle, or even more ideally, your Commander Ledros. Later on, your big win condition is Commander Ledros, and then even better, you also link it to Atrocity to quickly wipe out your opponent by halving and then hitting again with the spell effect. Like some of the decks from the last top 10, nothing has really changed in this deck either, which maintains its spot quite well, remaining at the number 6 slot on this list. This is a new archetype. Well, actually Shen and Barriers was already a thing, but the addition of Lulu and Young Witch, now with the challenger aspect of this deck, can really shine. It features cards from Demacia and Iona as a hybrid between mid-range and aggro. It can be aggro as cards like Flower Child, into Young Witch, or War Chefs, into Lulu, can lead to some insane starts which can be impossible to answer for certain decks. While it can be mid-range because it has a lot of ways to challenge other units, such as Laurent Protege and Swiftling Lancer, so it's a bit of a hybrid deck that kind of has both characteristics. You can protect the challenger units through Shen, Riposte, Young Witch, and Bright Steel Protector. The most notable combo is Lulu plus Fleet Feather Tracker, as she can easily remove whatever was played by turn 3, whilst also removing the blocker for Lulu as she can safely attack. This is definitely a solid and fast deck, optimal to rank with, and it's also got new cards which are good from the Targon release, so bonus points there, and it's also great against the new Aurelion Sol decks. Swain Twisted Fate got hit quite hard by the Yordle Grifter nerf, as it served as an activator for Riptide Rex. The consistency decreased by quite a bit, but it's still a top 10 deck. This actually appeared in my best meta decks video for patch 1.8, and shows just how hard this nerf hit, with this deck appearing at 5th spot now on this list. Up next is Swain Twisted Fate, which consists of cards from Noxus and Bilgewater. Has a strangely low average mana cost for a control deck, with most cards costing between 2 and 3 mana. This is due to the deck being a mix of a burn and a control deck. It's a more expensive deck with actually 7 epics in total, which is way above average. This deck actually had at one stage the highest win rate in patch 1.8, and a variant of this featured in my previous top 10 video. Twisted Fate is a great card to stall either to AoE to a wide board, or to stun and set up removal for a big threat, or even as a proactive move by drawing cards and discounting him. Swain is your finisher, but only if combined with the Leviathan, which is much more important than Swain himself, giving you a way to trigger easy Nexus damaging trigger effects basically. The other cards are pretty straightforward, and basically just removal tools that you need to use in order to level up Swain. A notable card I want to talk about is Nocturne Guillotine, as it's so easy with this deck to damage to something using Twisted Fate's red card, or make it rain, to the point where you can spend a turn to remove their board, and given an average you're going to be removing something which costs more than 3 mana, you get the upper hand in that trade. The Leviathan is much more important to draw rather than Swain, as Swain alone won't get through most of the times, and you'll just get the occasional stuns from Nexus damage spells, while the Leviathan, every turn you can stun half of your opponent's board, and Swain will easily connect, further destroying your opponent's board. Even if it doesn't, the Leviathan will slowly and steadily kill your opponent, and it is such a fun way to win that Ray, effectively putting your opponent on a timer. Lux Aurelion Sol is a control deck featuring cards from Targon and Demacia. The deck has a higher than average number of low cost cards for a control deck, with a total of 12. It's also quite budget with no epic cards and 22 common cards. This is the go-to control deck, although we'll see some slight variations of the same concept later in this video with a slightly higher win rate. This is similar to Leona Aurelion Sol, but has much less of a focus on the Daybreak package. takes advantage of Lux and more spells to trigger her, such as Remembrance and Sunburst. Overall, just stall out the game and try to mulligan for Radiant Guardian, and then other healing cards like Guiding Touch against aggros, and the burn will naturally be drawn from your deck, basically making you win. Then later on, control the board with Lux until you can win by basically summoning a big Aurelion Sol. We did see a nerf to your Grifter in patch 1.10, which was sometimes included in this version of the deck, but it's not enough to decrease the consistency of the deck overall. In fact, it's actually had the opposite effect, as a spot in this list has climbed to 3rd, and it was originally actually at 5th. This deck has seen some experimentation for quite a while now, and it's finally in the rise of popularity and deserves the S tier spot. It's effectively a mono build water featuring Sejuani and Babbling Burge. You want to activate Plunder basically every turn, so when you drop Sejuani and Gangplank, they'll be leveled up pretty instantly, if not very quickly already. Use Babbling Burge to consistently draw your power cards thanks to Sejuani and Riptide Rex. You also have lots of new ways to activate Plunder thanks to cheap spells like Warning Shot, Parlay, and a new Monkey Business. The easy Plunder activation doesn't stop there. Prowling Cutthroat and Market Idol are great at doing this too. Overall, the Plunder activations are crucial, as well as playing your Sejuani as early as possible, as her, plus another Plunder activator, is pretty impossible to recover from thanks to her leveled up effect. Up next is another control deck, and it consists of Leona and Aurelion Sol. As you can see, there's a nice mix of followers, spells and champions, and the card costs are also quite varied, with 2 costing 12 and 15 costing 5, and it's split right across all the card cost values. This is the control deck. Sometimes it can also work as a mid-range beatdown, and its key strength for this deck. With all the Daybreak cards, you have a very strong early game, Solari Soldier being the best 1-drop in turn 1 you could possibly have, and Solari Shieldbreaker being possibly the best 2-drop, which more often than not will simply just make your opponent skip the attack if you manage to play it first. Up next is Leona, who will use a cheap Daybreak units already mentioned to both put a blocker in play and activate Leona's leveled up effect to remove the strongest attacker as well, forcing your opponent to take open attacks or punishing them for not doing so. Then you have a splash of Demacia in the form of Radiant Guardian and single combat to have even more survivability. To finish things off, with Daybreak you also have Christ I said that badly, Daybreak Spear with his amazing effect, meaning it will always be day for Daybreak cards. To top things off, there's Aurelion Sol, which will simply dominate the late game and make you win the game basically. It is simply there as a powerful card, and it only actually relates to Solari Priestess, who can invoke a 4-6 Celestial card on the Daybreak effect. With the nerfs to other aggro strategies, this archetype received a buff to one of its components, Cygnus the Moonstalker, so this remains one of the most efficient and one of the only aggro decks to counter and keep in check all the other control archetypes. If you're looking to counter Aurelion Sol, or at the fact matter, any control deck, or simply take advantage of the Nightfall mechanics, then this is the deck for you. So today I'm going to start off with a Nightfall themed deck. It consists of cards from Targon and Shadow Isles and features Diana and Nocturne. This deck is very aggressive and has a reflective average mana cost, with 32 cards costing 3 or below. This deck has a somewhat strange pace. You usually start the first turns by passing and banking mana, only to later unleash a ton of Nightfall threats. It's important to keep your Nightfall activators, which are Lunari Dustbringer, Solari Soldier, and Stalking Shadows, in your hands. These are Nightfall activators as they're the cards that don't actually have the Nightfall effect, therefore they get value out of being played first in a round, unlike most of the other cards in this deck. Fading Memories is by far the strongest Nightfall activator as it costs 0 mana. Even if you don't play the ally you're copying, 0 mana Nightfall triggers are insane, so therefore are times when even if you go first, and you have a 1-drop, you could actually be passive, as this will translate to even more Nightfall triggers later on. Nightfall triggers are so valuable because the Nightfall effects can be devastating. Diana can remove 1 unit per attacking turn, whilst Nocturne should be used more as a finisher combined with other cheap units to make all blocking units unable to block fearsome and basically deliver unblockable one-shot. Every aggressive deck in Runeterra should have at least 1 bit of burn, and this role is filled perfectly by Doom Beast, Unspeakable Horror, and Atrocity. The last one is the best combined with Nocturne or a Nightfall buff Diana, so make sure you use Atrocity at the right time. I can already guess a lot of you are expecting Lee Sin to appear on this list. The truth is, Lee Sin's decks have been popping up everywhere, but the win rates have not stuck him in the top 10. As usual, lots of people have jumped on the bandwagon of trying newly changed cards and using them unsuccessfully, dropping the win rate down. The data presented here is analysed from MOBA Analytics by Bomber TV, a Masters tier player with a background in game theory and design. He took most of the winning archetypes into Masters tier, excluding ones with small play rates, and analysed their key properties on why they're so strong. Go and check him out. What deck are you having the most luck with so far in patch 1.10? I would love to hear in the comments. Up next is Best Meta Decks patch 1.10, taking a deeper dive into the best decks currently being used in the game. Please like and subscribe, and I'll see you next time.